Connected.
Oh,
Hello.
hello. Long time no see.
Ah, cool. We finally got the audio to come through.
Apparently, was it having a hard time there for a second?
Yeah, it seemed to be a bit sort of laggy, but all good now. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, you sound perfect.
Ah, cool. At least this time I'm not on video when you're not on video, which was a bit weird, me just sitting there while you could sort of see me. Not that it mattered, but yeah, it was just I sort of felt like I had to sit in good posture and yeah.
I get that. Yeah, no, I don't worry. One day I'll be able to get that camera.
Oh no, it's yeah, it's not an issue. Like I say, it's all about what you say, isn't it? It's not how we looking or anything. It's all about what, yeah, the content.
That's true. But when it's just the one video of the person, you kind of end up just having to hold a specific posture the entire time and sit there, kind of like, yep,
To be honest, it was good practice. I felt it was good practice for any other chats I have or any times we actually do get on camera.
it's true. Don't worry. I do have that planned for a later point in time. I mean, they can't be too expensive. I just have to get like a second-hand one or maybe a cheaper model on sale. But that's neither here nor there. One of these days, we'll get that video
Oh,
call.
yeah, honestly, no pressure, and yeah, I'm sort of grateful that you allowed us to chat tonight. I know you've probably been a little bit rushed. I didn't mean to be so sort of set on a specific day. I could have done other days, just so you know.
Oh no, you're perfectly fine. I'm sorry that I had to push it back a little bit. I had other prior things that I had to do with that. That I just had not scheduled correctly. So my apologies, but thank you for being so flexible in that regard.
No, honestly, anytime I'm more than happy to talk about all things fitness, calisthenics, anything, personal development, all the stuff we always talk about. I could talk about it for hours. So, honestly, it's my pleasure.
Well, that turns out perfectly because I've got questions for you this time, and they're not just off the cuff.
Oh, cool. I look forward to, yeah, hopefully giving you some detailed answers,
All
going in
right.
depth.
Then I am ecstatic. I want to start out because this is since our last conversation, I've had a couple of questions that pop into my mind, and it's always good to theorize it, like for myself, what I think about it. But I always want your like view on it as well, especially because you are a trainer currently, and you do have clientele that you like to kind of put through different methodologies because different things work for different folks. So I wanted to know, how do you feel about workout finishers?
Oh, that's a good question, isn't it? When you say finishers, do you mean as in like a fatiguing type of finisher or just anything? Because there's a couple of ways you could do a finisher, if you know what I mean.
I would love to hear how you program it, but my question originally orients on fatigue. So pushing the body to the utmost level.
I think it's a good idea, and it is something that I use, obviously, with myself and with people that I work with. Um, I would say depends what your goal is. I would say for if it's fat loss, I think it's a great idea. Obviously, because it's conditioning, you're just getting more energy output and obviously more afterburn.
Hmm.
Similarly, with sort of muscle gain, I would say it works well because obviously it's more volume. You're still sort of beating down the muscle. I think strength, you could still use it, but you'd need to be very careful how you used it because obviously, as we know, when it comes to strength training, the quality and the form dictates the results that you get.
Very
So
true.
if you was to sort of do it on a heavy move or a complex move, it can be tricky unless you know your form is good. Well, having said that, I have used it on moves like muscle ups myself.
Mhm.
But what I'd do is I would keep the reps low. So for example, like I could maybe do eight to ten muscle ups on the bar when I'm fresh. At the end of a session, I'd never do that amount. I would do maybe, okay, I'm going to do sets of three and combine it with straight bar dips at the top and then some pull ups at the end, all in one set. So that's how I would use it. But I think they're a very good idea, and they're just an extra chance to extract more results, sort of at the end of a workout, which I think's yeah a great thing to use. I don't know if you could use it all the time, but I do think they have a very strong place in someone's program.
That was phenomenal. When would you not use them? I guess is also my question.
When would I not use them? I suppose when I wasn't confident that someone's technique and foundation wasn't all that solid. So if someone came to me and they were brand new to training and I hadn't run them through just a series of tests, a few sessions under the belt, and you know that they can say, for example, they've got all the major patterns dialed in, so they can squat really well. They can lunge. They can just do all your primal patterns. They have basics understood, and their biomechanics are good in most of the primal patterns. Like you know yourself, like your horizontal push, your horizontal pull, your vertical push, and there's no glaring imbalances and injuries. Then I would use it. But until I knew that, I wouldn't. So there's no specific case that I wouldn't use it, other than just not being sure on the level of the person I'm with. So in other words, as long as I've got some experience with them, that's what I would need in order to use it.
Understandably so. That's actually something that I had thought about quite a bit too. Like for us, being in like an intermediate or advanced in your like scenario, your case, training stage, that I think that AMRAP, that just that finisher, doing as much as you can, fatiguing yourself is phenomenal. But when it comes down to that basic level, like you said, the form's just not there, so it would just break apart and potentially injure them more than it would be beneficial for them.
So a question for you though. So when you're talking this, are you talking just about a single set on a single move at the very end of your workout, or are you talking more about the last set of every exercise being an AMRAP? Because I know we discussed this through messages a little while ago, didn't we? Which was a fascinating topic, by the way.
So, personally, for myself, in my own training, I've been trying to do AMRAP for the main movement patterns. So, my chin ups, especially, because I want to see how far I can push myself. Because my pulling, I always mentally fatigue myself and think that I can't push myself as far as my body can.
Yeah,
The other one is my dips, but I actually plan on, like, I don't plan, but I traditionally use negatives in that form instead of just trying to push because I am so aware of how easy that form could break down, how my range of motion could break down. So I just focus on more trying to get total volume with negatives in on that one comparatively to an AMRAP.
yeah. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think with the moves that you just mentioned, the chin ups and the dips, because they are more complex and they're very form dependent as to how much results you get. So if you do them badly, you get shit results. If you
Mm-hmm.
do them well, you get good results. I think that the AMRAP has to be very carefully monitored. So your form must be spot on, which is why what I've done with a lot of people, particularly on those moves, is we'll go AMRAP, but it will be sort of you'll have like a goal rep range that might be I want another 20 reps out of you across however many sets it gets, and I'll observe to see when the form goes. So they might only be doing threes, like literally sets of three, coming down, resting 30 seconds to a minute, then going back up. But anytime the form goes even slightly south, then I stop them and say, right, okay, it's 2 reps. You've still just got to do work down with sets of twos or whatever. I'll
Mm-hmm.
sort of play it by ear almost, if you get what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I actually just used that in a workout yesterday where after finishing all of the pushing exercises that I had planned for that day, I made it a goal, no matter how many sets, try to do it in the fewest amount of sets as possible, but reach 50 push ups with good form.
Yeah, I think that's a great training method. And the thing is it's all well and good doing that once, but where the magic really happens is when you repeat it. So you say, okay, I did 50 push-ups in I don't know how many sets. I'm trying to think of an example here. Let's say 3 sets across 3 sets. Then you try and sort of reduce that to almost 2 sets and then 1 set. You get my point, or you get closer and closer to getting to 50 reps. But I think sometimes with these finishers, people they'll just go, oh, let's just burn it out, but they have no idea what they're doing, so they don't have that progressive overload element to it. I still think that even with your finishers or your AMRAPs and your things like that, you should always have a progressive nature. Just have some idea of what you did last time and what you need to do this time. If you see.
Absolutely. And this actually is a segue question because I just thought of it. But do you make your clients have a workout journal?
It's difficult. So, where I work with quite a wide spectrum of people, and a lot of the people that I work with don't train on their own. They literally always train with me. So in that case, they've always got a workout journal because every single person I work with, every session is written down in my book with notes. So everything they've done is all documented. But if they were doing it on their own, which I always encourage them, but they don't always do because they just go, oh, it's not the same without you, which is a bit of a paradox because it's flattering that they need me and it shows that I've got value, but at the same time, they need a bit of independence, if you see what I mean. So it's a bit annoying for me in a way. But anyway, yeah, I would endorse that. I would always, always, always say have a training journal. I have still got some of mine that I'm looking at across the room from me now, little notebooks that you can get, kind of like an A5 notebook.
Mhm.
Just I for years I wrote down every workout I did. I dated it. I wrote my sets and reps. I took any little notes. So it'd be like, for example, I'd write, dips sucked due to shoulder hurting. There'd be
Mhm.
little notes like that would take it. It would go, oh, pull-ups potentially bad because of too much front lever practice or whatever. It would be like that. So, oh, 100%. I think, yeah, I would make them track their workouts and know their numbers. Maybe not write it down, but I insist that they always know where their numbers are and what they have to beat. So they always have a marker on which to gauge progress.
Great. And I personally, I feel like that's probably where you made a lot of your advancements in your strength and your muscular size is being able to track down and figure out after every workout, into every workout, what was different, what you can change from session to session, and if you're going back and reviewing it to see what was working, what was not, why you may have hit less reps a few months back, it gives you more of an idea about why those things happened.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely critical. And the annoying thing for me is that I could program for anyone else, but when it comes to programming for myself, the self doubt is unreal. It's just silly. I don't know. You're probably the same yourself. If I said to you like, give me a workout, you'd probably give me a good workout. If I said to you, go and program for yourself, you would probably be, oh man, is this the right workout? Or oh, maybe I need a bit more of this, or maybe need a bit more of that. You always seem to question your own programming when it's you, but when it's anyone else, the confidence level is just there. It doesn't matter. I could write it out for anyone. But for me, I just find it hard. I don't know how you find that, but I do.
Actually, paradoxically, I think I have an easier time programming for myself because if I end up with lackluster results or maybe something doesn't work out potentially, I'm okay with taking that hit on myself. You know, I plan on
Nice.
being fit throughout my life. So, like a little bit of a setback, maybe even a huge setback. Like maybe my training methodology for 3 to 6 months is just terrible. Nothing happens, progresses nowhere. I don't know why I would let it go that long, but I would be fine with taking that personally compared to somebody like a client or a friend who's looking to make a change in their physique or something like that. I would be significantly more hesitant to have them try out something experimental in the case that I would be potentially wasting their time.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I guess the pressure, there's more pressure in a sense because you don't want to let them down. You're okay, you can accept your own failure, but you'd hate to let someone else down.
Hmm.
I don't know. I guess it's just an experience thing, perhaps. I mean, it's one of those. Once you do it a few times and you're used to it, you just sort of yeah. I don't know. The confidence just comes. But in a way, I wish I was a little bit more like you because I'd be able to program for myself and not overthink it. The amount of times I write out a plan for me and I go over it and over it and over it and modify it and tweak it and then look back and go, actually, no, 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 I need a bit more frequency, or oh, no, no, I need a little bit more variation, or oh, there's not enough volume, or is there too much volume? And you can understand where the head fuck's going.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's and that's the thing is like a lot of the time with programming I find less is more. Very few people need that much advanced programming. Like we all sort of love to feel like we need special drop sets and cluster sets and all this other stuff, but not that many people need seriously advanced programming. Not that I find. Usually basic progressive overload that works a lot longer than people would like to believe. I think the reason that people don't stick with basic progressive overload is because when you get to a strong level, the progress gets slower and you have to work fucking hard to overload every time. When you're a beginner, it's quite easy. When you get sort of down the line, it does get a real grind. And people just don't like the grind, so therefore it's easier to just let's just put more variation in so that it's a new workout. If you see what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. And that actually leads me into my second question for you, which is the main motivator for your clients. It seems like, as you were talking about just now, like boredom tends to set in for a lot of people, even though they are seeing consistent progress. So, do you find that variation usually is the motivation, or just progress, seeing a visual change? What usually motivates your clients?
In all serious, it's probably performance based. I think I always talk about this. I try to keep everything as performance based as possible. So if someone starts working with me, I wouldn't instantly go, okay, right, I can make you look like this, or lose however many inches off your waist and put however many inches on your biceps. It's more a case of going, okay, what do you like? What history do you have? What experience do you have? And then they'll usually say, I don't know, I've done kettlebell training in the past, and I don't really like cardio, or I do like weights, or I don't like weights. That gives you a rough idea of what you can sort of use with them. And then from there, it's just sort of saying to yourself, okay, what do you want to achieve? Like, what would you like to do? For example, almost every single female I've ever worked with has turned around and gone, oh, it would be nice to get a pull up one day. Literally, that's the number one female goal. Like, I've never met a girl that doesn't want to either improve their pull up performance or obtain their first pull up. So the motivation is always, what do we want? So, like, okay, I want 5 push-ups or pull-ups, and normally it does come back to, and I'm probably being biased here, calisthenics-based goals. Nearly always, because they're so foundational, they're so primal. A pull-up tests your pulling power, and a push-up tests your pushing power, whether you're a male or a female. And if you're a beginner, we take it for granted, the likes of you and I, we take it for granted that we can rep out pull-ups and push-ups. But a lot of untrained people, they can't do that. So even to them, they still know that that's a decent standard. It's like, oh, I couldn't do 20 or 30 push-ups. And then I say to them, honestly, give me a couple of months and you'll be doing that easy. And then, lo and behold, they are doing that easy. They're doing it weighted. They're doing it on rings, or they're doing dips with weight, and push-ups are just beneath them again in such a short space of time. So, in a nutshell, it's always performance-based, and we just establish some sort of physical goal, much more than saying, okay, we're going to lose 6 pounds, or we're going to put. Well, I say we could put weight on their bench press and things like that. That's more realistic than physical goals. I always think the physical follows the performance.
Absolutely. I think, especially when diet and training are dialed in, the physique just comes in naturally. So it's really focusing on making sure you have good programming, which in most situations, if you're following a progressive overload, especially even for beginners when you're following a linear progression, like progressive overload routine, they're going to see results. Like you said, performance is a big thing. CNS adaptions occur tremendously for untrained individuals. So achieving their first push-up, I feel like you're absolutely right. They think that it's this insurmountable goal to get 20 or 30 push-ups, but they can do that, like you said, in the span of a couple of months, and I feel like that definitely just blows them away and promotes them to keep on training.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said about the CNS adaptations, because that's the first thing that happens, isn't it? The visual and the physical stuff all happens afterwards. So if you start looking in the mirror all the time, and of course you're always the last person to notice your changes, it's everyone else that notices it before you. So to look for the physical, that takes time, but the CNS and the strength increases you can get as a beginner, as you just said, are phenomenally fast. They really are, especially if someone does it right and they just get their recovery right, and that they just hit the balance. If they're not overtraining and they're sleeping well, and lack of stress and all that stuff, you can see some crazy strength gains. And of course, without getting too complicated, some people have sort of natural sort of like what I'd call a clever CNS, where they learn stuff very quick and adapt very quick. I have seen some people where you show them a move once and then it's just, oh, I know what that is, yeah, I've got it, and they just pull it off, and you think, where the hell was the practice? It's like either I'm a really good coach or you're just a great learner, or a bit of both, as I like to think. But yeah, it's CNS is worth a lot, like you say. CNS first, and then the physical comes afterwards. But you're never going to get good physical gains if you don't get the CNS gains first.
That's very true. You won't be able to overload your muscles or give it adequate volume at an adequate intensity to elicit hypertrophy gains or anything to that matter. If you just are neglecting your CNS entirely, you're not going to change your strength levels or your muscular hypertrophy.
Well, yeah, exactly, and it's like this discussion on the mind muscle connection, and how some people say, oh, it's bullshit, and it doesn't mean anything, and you don't need a mind muscle connection, just lift heavy weight. And there was a time where I kind of agreed with that, but then looking back now, I disagree with it. I do think that there's a lot to be said for like internal drive. So like, two people can be doing press ups and with the exact same form, same rep range, but one person's going to get more out of it than the other one. Why? Because one of them's using the right cues, or they just know how to activate the right muscles better, generate tension, control tension. There's a lot to be said for that, and that's where I think a lot of people that get to like the intermediate stage, they sort of they go wrong, because they start thinking, well, I need to keep overloading everything. But sometimes it can be a question of going, well, just do it cleaner. And you think, well, how can I do it cleaner? Well, you can. There's tempo, there's all sorts of things you can add in, pauses, just real internal focus. I've heard a lot of people talking about this, and it didn't resonate with me for a little while, but it sort of does now. Like you just really trying to make everything as hard as you can by just tensing tight and contracting and just really deep focus in every set that you do. And that's something that people that are not experienced can't do, because I've met loads of people that start out and then they'll do like a leg exercise or a squat, and then you say, where did you feel that? Just as a check, like feeling it in the right areas, and they go, oh, I'm not really feeling it anywhere. And then you look at them and you think, well, how? Like I can stand there and make my glutes cramp. Like I can make so many different muscles just cramp on cue, literally to the point of agony. Almost every muscle, because it's an experience thing. So yeah, I think mind muscle connection and quality is worth a lot down the line as well to progress. I think that's something that I've sort of discovered that I think it's a little overlooked now.
Absolutely, yeah. I feel like a lot of people take it for granted, especially just neuralistically, how your mind connects in with strength training. I know personally, I've seen a lot of people, when it comes to the squat or the bench press primarily, as a movement, when they start training heavy, they will start dive bombing it, and they'll just like take the entire hit onto their joints and not even feel the working muscles until they start coming out of the hole in the squat, the bottom of it.
Yeah. Oh, that's so common as well, isn't it? And you pray for their joints when you see that. I believe it or not, you know where I saw a lot of that. This will probably make a lot of people laugh. Gold's Gym in Los Angeles. You remember the last time we spoke? I hadn't gone out there yet, so obviously I've been out there in the meantime between now and when we're talking now. And honestly, man, you'd go to Gold's Gym and you'd think, okay, I'm going to see a lot of dedicated bodybuilders, good form, people that know how to lift, people that know how to do things. Honestly, it was as bad as the gym that I work out, if not worse. The technique, the ego lifting in Gold's Gym in California, the famous one, the one that Arnold went to, the one that everyone knows,
Mm-hmm.
was shit, absolute shit. The day that I went there, honestly, there was hardly anyone lifting with good form, and I don't mean to sound like a hater, but I'm talking like you said, flat bench press. There was one guy, I think I did 225 for reps I was doing, just for a video, nothing serious, just 225 for a few reps, just because I don't even lift weights, but I thought, oh, let's do it, because I'm in Gold's Gym, you've kind of got to lift weights, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
And then this guy came over and said to me, oh, hey bro, can you spot me, man? Can you spot me? I was like, yeah, sure. And he went, I'm going to lift the same weight that you lift, and I thought he was going to be okay with the weight. Literally, I was having to lift half of it up myself, and he was arching his back off the bench. It was just horrific. Everything in me wanted to sort of say, look, man, you can't lift this weight. Like, don't do that. It's dangerous. But yeah, he wouldn't have let me. But yeah, you're dead right. Like joints and those moves just tend to lend themselves to just shitty ego lifting. Those, especially those big compounds.
Yeah, absolutely. I know personally, I've seen some people bomb the barbell bench flat bench press right onto their sternum, knock the wind out of themselves, and then like struggle to push it back up because they're struggling with trying to obtain breath again, and they had no base to begin with for the push. So
Yeah, and a lot of the time they don't even have any tightness either in the bench. You can kind of see someone that knows what they're doing, because a lot of the powerlifters talk about this, is that sort of just kind of locking in the lats and just getting the upper back muscles to just be contracted isometrically, just to give the bench press more of a stable base as you go down. And I can spot it a mile off when someone's completely floppy. And that's how you know when they're literally just unrack the bar and just let the bar fall, because the bar can't fall when the upper back's tight, because you're going to control the descent. But if you have the upper back loose, the bar will fall. The bar will just bounce on and off the chest. So yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
it's hard to watch.
It's cringy, because and it's hard to even say anything unless they're your personal training client. You can't be that guy. I mean, you could. People are probably going to hear this and disagree with me and say, oh, just go over there anyway. But I always think only give advice if it's asked for, or unless it's completely dangerous. Someone's doing something so dangerous that you have to just step in. But other than that, it's hard because you don't want to offend people.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that entirely. It's like every time that I remember, hearing about ways to approach personal clientele or like getting new clientele, they're always like, "Oh, you see someone working out in the gym, just walk up to them, start giving advice on their form." And in my mind, all I can think
Uh,
about is like, who does that? Like,
Yeah, I'll take it from me. That doesn't work. If it does work, it's a rare occasions, and you have to be incredibly like tactful in how you do it. Like I've never done that. I've never ever gone up to someone and gone, "You're doing it wrong," even in a polite way. It just doesn't. What works better sometimes, if you're lucky enough, this is another way that you can do it, is that people will come up to you and go, "Am I doing this right?" And bang, you've got your opportunity then to go, "Well, actually, you're doing okay, but try this, and this, and that'll be a lot better." And they go, "What do you mean?" And then you say, "Right, okay, do this," and you talk them through it, and you go, "You can feel it better, right?" "Yeah, I can." And then they go, "Oh, so you're a trainer?" "Yeah, yeah, I am." Yeah, and it works. You can see where it's going. It's
Hmm.
like, "Oh, yeah, no, of course, blah 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 blah." And then, yeah, long story short, you've signed them up. I've had that a few times, but whether that's luck or whether they've just, I don't know. I don't know whether that's just, yeah, luck of the draw, or something about the people that made them want to question whether they're doing it right or wrong. I suppose they're not. They've got some degree of awareness that maybe they thought, "Oh, I can't be doing this perfect. It's better to get some sort of clarification." I'm not sure.
Hmm. But no, that's a very interesting view, and I'm glad to know that not everyone just approaches people in the gym and starts going, your form's pretty shit.
No, man. Like that's suicide. Like that's just being. There's people that do that at my gym. Honestly, there's people that do that, and all they are thought of is just douchebags. No one likes them. Trust me, nobody likes them. People will politely go, "Oh, okay, thanks for letting me know," and then as soon as they turn their back, it's like, "That guy's a dickhead." It's literally like that. So yeah, don't be that. Like you, I'd rather see you like, yeah, have less clientele and not approach than approach and just do that, because you won't get clientele that way either. You'll just be thought of as a know-it-all kind of like bull in a china shop person.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's definitely seems like a bullheaded approach. Transitioning away a little bit based off of the topic of central nervous system and recovery for people, especially beginners, how vital do you see sleep for your clientele?
Oh man, it's I'd say it's the number one thing, isn't it? Like if someone's not losing body fat and their calories are in place and their recovery, and by recovery I mean like the amount of training sessions they do isn't abnormal and the volume is not too long. You say for example they're training for an hour at a decent frequency 3 times a week, and they're in a calorie deficit and they're not losing any weight and they're putting weight on, then I would think, well, the first question I would have is, how are you sleeping? That's always what I ask people that say they're not getting the results that they want. Um, Personally, I know that if I if I don't sleep a decent amount, it's not that I can't perform, because I have had good workouts with very little sleep. But what really gets me is my appetite. My appetite changes when I've not slept very well. So I always find that I just crave shittier food, sugar, a
Mm.
higher quantity of food. I find that I just sort of say to myself, "Oh, it's okay, I'll have another dinner." Whereas normally I wouldn't, but because I'm tired, I think, "Well, you're tired, just eat more food." So I think it's critical. I say to a lot of them that they need to get that in order. If someone tells me they're sleeping less than 6 hours a night, then I would just say, "Look, you've got to fix that straight away, or you are borderline wasting your time."
Fair, understandably. I think it is a significantly undervalued attribute. So, where is the cutoff for you personally? You said under 6 hours, but is it 6 hours consistently, or if they're just like one or two times per week they're getting six, and then the rest? What is the sweet spot you've noticed that people sleep and can perform optimally?
Oh, that's a great question, isn't it? That's one of those "how long is a piece of string" questions. Uh, oh, I think, well, from what I've seen, I'll speak from what I've seen from me and with other people. From what I've seen is that you can have, say, over the course of 7 days, you could maybe have two, maybe three at a push nights where you have less than, say, 6 hours. So what you'd consider, in inverted commas, a shit night's sleep, and still get reasonable results. But you certainly can't do it every night. If you was getting less than 6 hours a night every night, I've definitely seen people. They start okay, so they'll come in. The first couple of nights have been bad sleep, or they've been working shifts. They'll do all right, and then we'll see near the end of the week, all of a sudden they can't even better their numbers or even match the numbers they got at the last workouts. They're actually, regressing rather than progressing,
Mm.
which is a big sign. Um, Overall, I would say the important thing is getting unbroken sleep. At least with me, I've found if I sleep 7 hours all the way through without sort of waking up to pee or just randomly waking up, I feel 10,000 times better than I do if I sleep 7 hours with 2 hours plus 1 hour plus 3 hours plus 1 hour, like broken sleep where you wake up all the time. I think that's key. Is people don't think enough about the length and the quality of the sleep. So sort of going to bed with the intention of staying asleep rather than, well, I had 2 hours and I woke up and so on and so forth.
No, I completely agree, and that's actually one of my biggest downfalls. I absolutely enjoy having quality, long sleep, but my bladder wakes me up in the middle of the night every night. It always interrupts it, and I always think, like, does this happen to other people, and are their quality of sleeps better than mine? And it's a really big focal point in my own training that I focus on.
Well, how long do you sleep then? And you're only waking up once, or is it more than once?
Once, yes. So usually I'll sleep either. This is gonna seem obscene, but trust me, I've ran through the numbers. I've been through the gauntlet. I know that I have like a terrible recovery, but usually it averages from 8 to 9.5 hours of sleep.
Right, lucky you.
I know. That's I work around it. I don't have much free time. It's work, then go to bed.
Yeah, I could imagine. I know how life could be. It can be like that. So, one thing. So, have you ever tried front loading your water or your fluid intake?
That's what I've been doing as of late. I've been cutting it off around 8 p.m. and then I have about 4 hours until approximately I go to sleep.
Yeah.
So, and then make sure to use the restroom right before bed, things like that. So I'm like trying to get as little water in me before bed, and then get as much out of me before bed.
Have you seen any good results from that, or are you still waking up?
I've seen definitely a decrease of waking up because before when I was drinking water up until bed, I was having, maybe potentially 2 times per night.
Oh, yeah, I've I've had that before. I've done it all. I used to drink right before bed. I used to have water beside my bed, all that stupid stuff. Now I'm a little bit more like you. I mean, what is it now? It's 11, just gone. It's like past 11 p.m. at night, and I've not drunk anything for about 40 minutes or a bit more than that. And I won't now until whenever I hit the sack. But I probably will wake up to pee. I think I did last night at about sort of 5 in the morning, about halfway through. So, for example, if I fall asleep at 1 a.m. and wake up at 9 a.m., I'll wake up around 5 to pee and then go back to bed and sleep. But the second half of my sleep is never as good as the first half. That's the one where I can remember more and I seem to be more like in and out of sleep.
Hmm.
So I definitely think that pee break or that wake up to pee definitely can disturb your deep sleep and your REM sleep.
Mm.
And that REM sleep and deep sleep is the stuff that's sort of really where you get your recovery from. Like that's so linked, muscle recovery, central nervous system regeneration, and whatnot. So it's a bit of a bitch if you are constantly waking up around that time. And I know how annoying it is because it can be hard to even get back to sleep. Like you're tired, but because it's like the daylight is out now, the birds are singing and all that. There's loads more things going on that can make you kind of your body not want to go back to sleep, even though it's tired enough to do so.
Yeah, absolutely, and light is a big contributor to that as well. Light and sound, but primarily, apparently, there are photoreceptors in our skin that the moment that it starts sensing any sort of light, as it enters our retinas, touches our skin, we start getting rid of the melatonin production. So that's a very big reason why I opt for blackout curtains.
Yes, yeah, blackout curtains are do make a big difference. And another thing is you can have a sleep mask, like a blackout eye mask.
Ooh.
That's another one that you can do. Another thing that people do as well is that they use the blue filter, the blue light filter glasses. You've
Mm.
probably seen those. You can get them on Amazon. I've never tried them, but I know people that use them and swear by them. So they'll put them on at like, say if you go to bed at 11 p.m., they'll start wearing those glasses at maybe as early as 7 or 8. So a good few hours, and they will not take them off until they hit the pillow. So that all artificial light is filtered away from their eyes, and that's supposed to, again, sort of not inhibit the melatonin production that you'd get from being exposed to computer screens, phones, house lights, and so on. So, yeah, that would be a good idea, I would think.
I definitely know that personally on my own computer and my phone. I use blue light filters. So it puts a yellowish hue over it and filters out the blue light, which is the one that particularly messes with your circadian rhythm and your melatonin production.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I do the same as and when I can. I keep meaning to buy those glasses I just mentioned, and I think I'm going to sort of make sure I do that now on Amazon. I'm going to get that after this course, and I'm going to order them because I want to try them out. And that'd make a good experiment for like articles or a blog or whatever, just to see if it does do anything or not. I'd love to sort of try that out. Another thing, though, that I would say has helped anecdotally with me is magnesium. I know you've probably heard this a million times before. Magnesium supplementation, anecdotally, definitely makes a difference. Whenever I come off of that, I don't sleep as well as I do when I'm on that, without a doubt.
Actually, that is not one that I have heard about, so that's actually very intriguing.
Oh, there's a ton of research on it, like literally a simple Google search, magnesium and sleep quality, or anything along those lines, and you'll bring up a load of information on it. And obviously, where magnesium's so important when it comes to muscle contractions and whatnot, it tends to be very depleted in people. I know Charles Poliquin and people like that have wrote quite extensively on this, but that tends to be really, well, just low in all of us, and obviously it's needed for muscle contraction. So those of us that work out all the time are, are depleting our magnesium levels, something chronic. And if it's not restored, I mean, you can get it from food, but again, without getting too off topic, soil quality isn't what it used to be, and the foods don't really have the same content of magnesium that they used to. So it can be quite hard to get sufficient levels from diet, especially if you are very active, which is where supplements can come in. Although again, they cost money, so it's up to you and your budget to decide whether they're worth it. But they're not excessively expensive, and I have sort of found that they do tend to work when it comes to better sleep and just generally feeling better.
That's fair, and I think definitely running a short-term supplementation like trial and recording how you feel, and especially how you feel on it and coming off of it, is the truth in the pudding, as some people might say, for those who want to decide if they want to keep on supplementing with it. So, I mean, after advising with their doctor, of course, the legalities. I definitely suggest that people try it out because they won't know.
Oh, everything needs a fair trial. You're dead right there. Like, you can't say anything is good or bad until you've tried it. And again, everything I've said tonight, I wouldn't speak on anything that I've not done. But again, like I say, just because it did something for me, it might not do something for someone else. So, same as workout plans, but you have to give everything a fair trial. The other thing is someone will go and buy like a magnesium supplement. They'll use it one night and say, "Oh, well, my sleep was no different," and then write it off. It's like, come on, man, give it 2 weeks at least in anything, whether that's giving something up or introducing something new or a workout plan, or 2 weeks at least before you can even comment on it, in my opinion. 2 weeks of consistent use or consistency before you can comment on anything.
Yeah, that was going to be my exact follow-up. If the same person that says it didn't work after trying it once is the same person that says that a reduced caloric intake diet doesn't work for losing weight, or someone that says working out doesn't increase their lean mass if they're following a decent program.
Yeah, yeah, I know exactly the types you mean. Yeah, they've always got an excuse, and it's because they just can't consistently follow something.
And it is a shame that that ends up tainting their view of it, and potentially the people around them. But it happens, and the best thing that we can do is kind of try and teach people, hey, you got to give it a fair trial before you can write it off.
Well, yeah, and everyone's so sort of obsessed with novelty, and I think where our attention spans are so short nowadays, we've kind of taught ourselves to be just almost like ADD kids, where we just have no attention to anything. It's just sort of, oh, the phone's gone. What's that? Someone's messaged me. Just anything. Just we're so accustomed to looking around. It encourages this kind of like, well, if I don't see instant results, I don't want it. I'm going to be on to the next thing. Whereas back in the older times, like people they would just they wouldn't even be aware that there was many other things they could do. So if someone suggested something to them, they would just go, all right, well, I'll try that because to be honest, I'm not really sure what else I can do. So I'll stick with this for a while. Whereas nowadays, it's like just go on Google and you'll find 50,000 different alternatives, even if it is working out, how to work out, do all that. You will find a million and one ways programs that you should follow, reasons why, and all of it's backed by science. How the hell do you know which one to go for? it's impossible. Like it's information overload, and like you said, that's why people don't want to trial things. They just don't. They want to just get it now, or they just we're so scared of losing time. That's what I think the problem is. It's like, well, I won't put 2 weeks into it because if it don't work, that's 2 weeks of my life gone. It's like, well, not really. Like you're gonna learn. Like you have to invest time to get anywhere in this life.
Yeah, and a big thing that people don't recognize is the lessons that they learn even through failure. And I think that's just a big societal thing. You know, I've personally had many failures, but I'm very grateful for all of them because it taught me a lesson in every single one of them. And so many people lack that mindset.
Yeah, I think we live in like you said, it's like where it's just success equals win and nothing else. Whereas it's a win is always sweeter when you've lost so many times before you win. I always think that there's a saying I used to say. I'm trying to remember what it was, but I loved it. I always used to say this even when I was younger. It's like you can't win until you've learned how to lose. That's it. That's the saying. And I think that's a great one. Like I've loved that since I was a kid. That saying, and I've not said it for a while. It's just reminding me of it, but it applies, right? Like yeah, it's like you have to learn how to lose before you can really truly win. And it's the same thing. It's like you're never going to be the wisest person in the room if you won everything first time or everything went right for you straight away. Like okay, it's not to say that you're a bad person, but it's the wisest man in the room is the one that's fell over the most.
Absolutely. And there's another one that I really enjoy, another saying. It goes something to the effect of if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah,
So
that's great. Yep.
it's just continuously pushing yourself to not be that person that's like, oh, I always win. I always I always have a victory. It's like always being willing to fail so you can learn, so you can get back up again and do better the next time.
I think it's also tied into self-confidence. So you'd only be scared of failure if you didn't think you're good enough to come back from it. I think that's part of it. If you know you're good enough, that well, if I lose, I'm coming back stronger. But not everyone can truly say that. We all say that sort of like in the moment, like, oh yeah, whatever. If I lose, I'll be back. But do you genuinely believe that? I think the big winners genuinely know that if they get a loss, it's all right. Like it's a loss, but I'm going to turn this round eventually. I've got it in me to do that, and that I think is a sign of true self confidence, not fake, bullshitting confidence. It's genuine belief in one's ability and oneself, and it's rare to have that. Not everyone has that. It's that kind of winner's mentality, I think.
Absolutely, and I think that differentiates the people that get results and the people that don't. It's that entire mindset, that willingness to lose and then get back up and win.
Oh, that's key, and that always tells you a lot about people. I always say to people, you never know someone until you've seen them under pressure or in a pressurized situation. Because anyone can sort of say, oh, I'm great under pressure. I never lose my cool. Everyone says this about us. We all love to think of ourselves as this special person that's grounded and cool, and there's no faults of any of us. And then whenever like the pressure comes on, or you see them in like a fight or flight situation, you find out what kind of asshole they really are. It's just yeah, it's funny. The amount of times you just think, oh, what happened to that cool and calm person that you told me about? I'm not seeing that now. I'm just seeing a douche in front of me. It's always put someone under pressure before you know what they're really like.
That I completely agree. You really can't trust what someone might say until you see them in that scenario.
Yeah, without a doubt. Put the heat on and you always find out who people are. Like, yeah, deep down. It always comes out when they can't hide it and everything becomes instinctual and primal. That's when you really know someone's motives and intentions.
Absolutely. Transitioning away from this conversation, I do just have a couple more questions of
No,
your time.
cool, man. Yeah, go for it.
This one is kind of off topic, but it's one that I did want your views on, your feelings on. How do you feel about animal movements?
Ah, so you mean like the Edo Portal type flows and mobility things that people are getting into?
Yep. So like a gazelle walk or a gazelle trot, or you can do like the scorpion movement or like a bear crawl.
Yes. I think they're a very great way of getting active and effective mobility work in without it being as boring as like sets and reps might be. So if you was to give someone a mobility program and say, okay, we're going to work on your hamstring flexibility and all these other movements, and you just said, okay, pike hold, 3 sets of 60 seconds, shoulder stretch, 3 sets of 60 seconds. People are just, one, going to find that boring, and two, probably not get the same results they would with those animal movements. And those animal movements are, you're sort of building your mobility, but also building a skill and learning to use your body in a crazy amount of sort of almost unthinkable patterns and positions that you just would never think of. Like you would never go, okay, I'm going to train the body in this position, like just the twisting and the rotations and I remember, I think it was obviously I went to Emmett Lewis. He's a well-known flexibility guru. You may or may not have heard of him, but he's been quite big on Reddit in the flexibility and body weight world. He released a few things, but I went to one of his seminars a couple of years ago now on mobility, and he gave us this little task where we had to come up with unique ways of getting in and out of a squat. And the group came up with like a crazy amount of different ways, or something like 50 odd different ways of getting out in and out of a squat, just by thinking you can't do the same thing more than once, which is tied into that kind of movement flow. So I think the animal movements are I think they're very underrated and not something I've had a lot of experience with myself, apart from there's a little bit of that in calisthenic movements mobility program that I've been toying around with.
Oh.
But I've never purely gone like to the level where some of the Ido Portal students have gone to, where like it looks so easy and so graceful, but if you try any of those flows, you get stuck at the first hurdle. You're like, I can't even get past the first move. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's funny that you mentioned that. It's because I can definitely see that happening. I too would fall into that pet trap where it's just like, oh, this would be easy, maybe crawl like a monkey maybe, and then transition into a crocodile, like all fours walk. That would be simple. And then getting to the transition from that, just the rotation, my body in space, it gets you. You might be the most athletic individual in the entire world, and if you're not used to that movement pattern, that way to move your body, that flow that it's trying to teach you, you're not going to get it, and then it's going to be a really humbling experience.
Oh, it's a huge test, isn't it, for your proprioception, and it will expose weaknesses at the very, very least. It will expose a weakness if you've got enough body awareness. You'll say, "My God, why is that particular position so hard?" Or it must be because my X, Y, Z is so tight, or just immobile, or I never do that. And you think, well, okay, I will bring that into like my next training phase, or I'll work on the mobility needed to achieve that position. Like there's always something that's so humbling. Like for example, that seminar that I just mentioned like 2 years ago, when they covered the gymnastics bridge, so like the crab that people call it, or the back bend. I've always historically been notoriously terrible when it comes to thoracic extension, arms over the head, anything like that, and I just sucked that day. I was so bad at that particular move that everybody teaching that course came over and gave me unasked for help. And that's how you know you really suck at something, when people give you help that you don't even fucking ask for. Like that's exactly like they came over and went, look, don't do that because it's dangerous. I can see it's so hard for your body. So it's always an exposure. I think that sort of stuff will really show you, what you need more of. And like you said, it's humbling. Like you could bench press 500 pounds, you could deadlift 700 pounds, whatever, and you might not be able to do a simple lizard crawl that transitions into, like you said, all these other animal movements. And what the fuck is the point in bench pressing and deadlifting all that weight if you can't just do these simple movement patterns? You want to be able to do both, right? You want to be able to do those movements and deadlift that weight as well. That's a true athlete.
Exactly, and that does describe a true athlete, someone that can use their strength and also be able to use their mobility, their flexibility, and their overall fitness. If you're not hitting every point, you're not a holistic athlete. You might be able to compete within your sport, but as a fit, athletic individual, you want to be able to reach every single point on that.
Yeah, it's about having sort of, no, I don't want to say no weaknesses because you're always going to have a weakness, but it's about limiting your weaknesses. It's not necessarily about how good are your strengths. You're only as strong as your weakest link. So how good are your weaknesses? I love that. That's another saying for you as well. It's like, how good is your B game? Anyone can have a good A game. What's your B game like?
That is an extremely good question, and I think it's going to be something that I ponder about for the rest of the day after this chat.
No, it's yeah, this is why I like these conversations, is because they're always thought provoking. Like we will both go away and be like, "Oh man, that was great!" Like, yeah, it's I love it. That's why I could just I could chat all night. It's good fun.
Likewise, I really do enjoy the chats as well. Plus, it's incredibly informational. It's just filled with to the brim with information that people can learn from.
It's not often in today's world where I get to talk in any detail, believe it or not. Like I do a ton of reading and I'm very into what I do, and it's hard to share that level of conversation with people. It isn't yeah, like people will respect it, but they don't truly want to listen to any of it.
Mhm.
Like, so I'm good at filtering that in a day to day world. I'll be like, okay, you're just being polite, so I won't carry on now. And it's rare to get people that are like, no, 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 man, tell me more, or we can just talk more and go more and more into whatever subject. And that's what I like about these chats, is that I can do that here, whereas I can't necessarily do that regularly on a daily basis.
I understand that tremendously. That was definitely during my certification process. I was like, oh, so about the thoracic spine. And they're like, good luck with the test.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. Like, this is again not to get off topic, but why I think that the certifications in the fitness industry should be so much harder than they are, because to be honest, they're just a worthless piece of paper. Anyone can get them. It doesn't necessarily mean you know what you're doing.
That's very true. Yeah.
Like, I mean the basic stuff. I don't mean like some certifications out there are great, but the base level, I'm a qualified personal trainer in the UK, and I'm sure it's probably not much different in the US, isn't worth a lot. Like, anyone could pass that, in all honesty. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically how to do the correct form, how to train for individuals that are either young or elderly, and legalities. That's from what I remember. It was basic movement patterns, how to know something's fucked, and then your basics for exercise and how not to get sued. Like those were the big things.
Yeah, and the other thing is that they teach you that it's always a one size fits all. So it's like this kind of like, well, if he wants muscle gain, it's 8 to 12 reps. If he wants strength, it's 1 to 5 reps. If he wants endurance, it's 15 to 20 reps. If he wants to lose fat, it's cardio. It's that sort of crap. That's all it is. It's just, and not to say that that stuff doesn't do what it says, but you know, it's not just as simple as that all the time. There's more variation than that. But they'll just tell you it's just that. And the thing is, if you don't do your own research and seek out more knowledge, and you work with someone and you use those basic principles, and then basic principles stop working, where do you go next? You don't know. You just don't know. You think, well, the course told me it's that. Well, that doesn't work. Oh shit, I'm fucked now.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like that goes back. It loops back to the fear of failure, where they go, "Well, this is what I learned, so this is especially what I have to teach because everything else is just, potentially anecdotal. Like it might not be real. It's not backed up, but it's the fear of not being able to try out those new things, which potentially could fit an individual better."
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a tough one to judge, because I think with this industry, you have to select a few people that you respect their opinion of and you value them, and not too many, because if you follow so many people's and you subscribe to everyone's newsletter lists and all this stuff, and you start reading and watching all everyone's YouTube videos, you're going to find confliction because of the law of averages. So
Hmm.
it's about really being true to the people whose work you respect and saying, okay, maybe five at the most, probably even less than that, people, and sort of finding the common ground between all of them, and then kind of molding your approach as a mixture of all of those, plus your own anecdotal experiences and your own gut feelings slash knowledge on things. At least that's what I try to do, so that it's not overwhelming. Like, I could go on YouTube and search the best form on a bench press, for example, or a pull up, and I'll find a million tutorials that say a few different cues that contradict each other. How do you know what's right? Well, you don't. The only reason you know what's right is you try it out with people or yourself and see what it does. That's the best way.
And I completely understand that. I remember watching the Cali Move tutorial on doing pull-ups, and theirs is a little bit different than like the traditional standard because they implement the scapular depression after every single rep. So they depress the scapula and then they do the complete movement, and as they release they get to the bottom and then they release the scapular depression and then redo it on every rep. At least during the tutorial they showed that, and that really caught me off guard because all the other ones are just like, oh yes, grab the bar, tighten
Yeah.
everything up and try and bring your chin over it, and it's just so many people say, don't loosen up, don't let it loose. And personally, I'm a big fan of not releasing the depression of the scapula, but I think it trains the ability to depress your scapula better than just maintaining the tightness the entire time.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I think that scapular awareness in calisthenics, especially if we're talking calisthenics, but generally in all lifting movements as well, I think that is incredibly overlooked and underrated. That I think that's a big secret that Cali move her onto there is the scapular position, having that scapula just as strong as you can and being able to sort of turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off as and when you wish. I think that's worth an awful lot in fairness. And yeah, it's a difficult one. I coach myself. I coach pull-ups their way, so I would relax the scapula, reactivate, and go. But I wouldn't have you doing it so deliberate, if you know what I mean. So you'd go down under control, you'd relax your scapula for a moment, and then just pull back up, and it would happen naturally. It wouldn't be like, okay, go down, active hang, relax, active hang, pull. It's not so like mechanical as that. It's more of a flowing motion. It's the same when I do bar muscle-ups. My scapula will relax for a moment, but it happens quite quickly, and then I re-engage and then pull, kind of like a very quick process. But yeah, that's how I sort of do it. But yeah, like you say, very few people touch on that, the scapular importance, and it's only the real sort of detail orientated that even get into looking at that sort of thing.
And I think that's really the key point of being able to subscribe and see so many different views, because then you get to have both sides of the argument and decide which one works out best for you. Seeing as we do have only a couple more minutes, since I'm trying to limit it around an hour, so you can actually get some sleep, since we talked about how vital that was.
Yeah, no problem, man. Honestly, take as long as you need. It's cool.
I would love for you to tell me about your goals this year, and then following that up, tell me about the new calisthenics course you're teaching, and then any type of plugins and what you're up to.
Oh man, so goals this year. Let's cover the calisthenics goals, shall we, this year? Um, okay, so they're not really going to be any different to what they were when I last spoke to you. The one thing that has changed in the time that I've last spoke to you is my handstand proficiency. That has gone up astronomically. So when I last spoke to you, I just started that little experiment, I think, because from Christmas Day, I said to myself, right, I'm going to do 10 minutes of handstand practice a day, 5 minutes on my hands, 5 minutes on the parallettes. Just see whatever holds I could hold. And I was about, what, just under a month in when we last spoke?
That sounds
And
about
obviously
right.
now we're 6 months down the line. 6 months down the line, I've held well, almost held, yeah, high 50 seconds, nearly 60-second handstand,
Wow.
freestanding, a couple of occasions. And it's good enough that when I went out in Barcelona recently, I could just hit it on cue. Go handstand, bang, sand, handstand, concrete, handstand, grass, handstand, parallettes, handstand, doesn't matter. Just hit it, hit it, hit it. All right, the line might not always be good because the shoulders could sometimes be tight, but I could always balance one. So that is something that has gone up a lot. The goal is still to clean up the handstand push-ups. That's one of my physical goals this year. And you probably think, well, my level on other moves, you think he hasn't got a handstand push-up? I mean, I've got one, but it's not great. I'm trying to really get it where I can do it like freestanding in the middle of the room on the parallettes for reps. By reps, I mean a set of 3 to 5, not necessarily like 10 or 15 reps, 3 to 5. I mean, a handstand push-up is not really like a high rep movement. It's more of like a strength movement. So that's one of my goals, and that's always been a weakness of mine. Like that's been a huge weakness. I can't tell you how slow that's been to progress compared to everything else for me. No matter how much I do it and how much diligence I give it, it just seems to struggle. But we are getting there, slowly but surely. The other one is another cool looking move, which is the L-sit ring muscle up, which I think hasn't changed since I last spoke to you. It's the same goal. I'd love to get that, which is simple enough. It's a muscle up on rings, but it's starting in an L-sit and staying in an L-sit all the way through. You don't let your hips move or your legs drop. You stay completely in an L-sit, and then as you transition, the rings go out to the side, and your torso stays upright. So rather than rolling your chest over the rings, you stay sort of slightly behind the rings, which makes it a lot harder because the center of mass is pushed forwards. That's another goal of mine. Another one would be again, without getting complicated, ring supports. You know the ring support position.
Yes. So
You you start to lean forwards, bend your arms. You go through the bent arm planche position on rings, and then you lower to back lever. So you slowly straighten your arms. It's like a non-foot assisted pelican curl negative, and you find yourself in back lever. That's something I want. I'm not very far away from that. I've done it with a very light band, and I've done it with a very light spot on my feet. So it's one that to keep an eye on. But the the issue with that is it's so hard on the elbows and the
Mm.
wrists that it's not something you can train all the time.
Yeah.
So that's definitely one of my goals. I'd say those three for now are the main physical goals. I mean, we could get. Oh, while we're on the subject, I might as well say I'd like to do 10, 10, 10. So 10 bar muscle ups, 10 dips, 10 pull ups, all in one set without being broken. I think I could. It's just that sometimes 10 muscle ups is okay for me, and sometimes it's not. I've never given that a good but that's something that I really want to get. Is those sort of like long duration bar sets. I've been sort of looking at a lot of the stuff that like Lee Turner and the P&P fitness boys do. They do a lot of these like big bar combinations. So it'll be like 5 muscle ups into 10 dips on top of the bar, into 10 pull-ups with a 10-second hold at the top, and then a 10-second hold at 90 degrees, and then a 10-second active hold, and like a really long set. I'd like to do a 10, 10, 10. So they're sort of in a nutshell, I'd say, my physical goals for now, without getting so like, I want this, I want that, this, and and so on and so forth. And of course, I've been working on my mobility a lot. Like my mobility's improved tenfold in the last 6 months, just because I've been dedicated to the task. Um, Main goals would be front splits, side splits, a good pancake, a nice V sit, like a 90-degree V sit, so
Oof.
legs straight up in the air. I'd like to be able to hold that. I'm at about 45 degrees now, so I'm still a good bit away, but it is coming along. Yeah, no, they're my physical goals. If we're talking professional goals, the big thing for me at the moment is to try and get more workshops run, like I was doing. The issue I've had lately, alas, is that my partner with the workshops has gone into full-time work and therefore is not available to do workshops, and he's just moved into a different career path, so he's no longer in the whole movement coach, personal trainer industry, which is a big loss, I think, because he really is and was a great coach. So I'm sort of solo now. So anything that I do workshop wise for me is going to have to be managed purely by me. There'll be no one else to assist me with it. So I need to figure out what I'm doing with that. That's something that I'm going to have to really sort of sit down and think about. Sort of try how I'm going to either do I get someone on board with me to help out, and if so, who, or do I just fly it alone and see if I can make it work on my own? So that's the big goal with me as well. I mean, work-wise at the moment, clientele is always picking up. It's on a steady upward curve, and as you mentioned, there's a calisthenics class that I've been given at the gym that I work at, which, to be honest, was a real turn up for the books, because if we take it back sort of 4 or 5 years when I first started working there, and I would be like doing the odd pistol squat or just doing like a skin the cat. Even a skin the cat was impressive. People were like, what the fuck is that you're doing? And it was literally like, honestly, man, it was a laughing stock. People were like, that stuff's weird. Like, what is the point of all that stuff? Like, I had so many questions saying how bad it is. And it literally was a laugh. You would have never have put any money on that at all, that one day I'd be running a calisthenics class there. It was so unheard of and such a laughing stock. And when you fast forward to 4 or 5 years, it just shows you the power of just doing what you believe in, with regardless of whether anyone supports you or not. You don't need people's support. You just need your own faith, your own passion, and your own belief. And things will come to you eventually if you're good at it and the passion shows. You can't hide passion. Like, people will pick up on it, and that's what I think has given it to me. So that's been running now for 2 months. Yeah, so April 17. Yeah, almost 2 months. We're getting close to 2 months. It's been great fun. Like, it's one of those things where like it's only like an hour class, but doesn't feel like work. Like, it will just fly by, click of fingers, and it's flown by. And in all fairness, it's attracted all sorts of people, male, female, teenager, all the way up to sort of 60, 70 years old. Like, they're all there. And as you know yourself, I mean, calisthenics is available to everyone because it's so progressive or regressive. Like, there's always a regression or progression that's available to everyone. So yeah, teaching that has been a real blast. And to be honest, it's starting to look like there might be more of them on the program because the demand is getting quite high for it.
Ooh.
So watch this space. I might have more and bring it to more people. And of course, having that class opens up the gateway to get more one-on-one clientele, because it's a class once a week. You're getting shown certain things, but if you want to get faster progress, you're going to say to someone, well, what do I need to do to improve my whatever? and then I'll turn around and go, well, you need a bit more of that. They go, could you teach me that? Yeah, I could. Okay, what's involved? It's this price, it's this time, these are the sessions that you can have, and you've got more clientele from it. So it's been great in that regard. But yeah, main goals in summary. Oh, and also, like we spoke about just while I'm here, not to go on and on, the releasing this flipping ebook, this muscle up ebook. I'd love to get my own product out there. Just some sort of program, a really cost-effective price. I'm not in it to earn money. I'm in this just purely to get the experience of releasing a book on something that I'm pretty confident I know a lot about, and I'd love to get that up and running this year. That I'm going to go on record and say that is a big professional goal of mine, is to release some kind of program that is available on the website for a very, very small fee. We're talking pocket money, something like $10, $15 most, nothing expensive, that just people can use and learn about. For example, whatever the move is, be it the muscle up, be it the handstand. I've got ideas to do it on a few different moves, like back lever training, front lever training, so on and so forth. But the one that I've done a lot of work on is the muscle up. And as we've spoke about in message, I've got the skeleton sort of set. It's now just fine tuning the sort of all the pictures and the progressions and the photos and making it look nice and pretty, rather than just having it as bare bones. But the bare bones are in place.
Well, I'm personally, for myself, am excited for that to drop. I know I'll be supporting you and purchasing your copy as well. Don't forget to send over that review copy so I can give you notes on it.
I will do that when we're off this call. I can assure you that. It is in my mind, meaning to today.
I know that you've been busy and all over the place, like we all are. So I appreciate it. As well, you got any social media that you want to plug in? We've got your website. I'm going to be linking to everything that I know, but you've told us a little bit about your projects.
Okay, yeah. So, main to be honest, there's three ways to get in contact with me. StraightTalkingFitness.com is the website. That's just my sort of blog site, which has links to Instagram and ways to contact me. Instagram is where I'm most active. So if anyone did want to chit chat, I answer a lot of DMs on a daily basis. That's based mostly around calisthenics. Believe it or not, I get a lot of questions and things like that. So if you ever did want anything form checked or just my opinion on something, I'm more than happy to go deep. I'm not one of these people where you send me a message and I just turn around and go, yeah, looks good, man. I will say if you give me some information, I'll send you some decent detail back, put it that way. So yeah, at straight_talking_fitness, that's the Instagram. StraightTalkingFitness.com. If you want business inquiries or anything to do with like I say, chatting shop, email is just straighttalkingfitness@gmail.com. They are the links to find me.
I'll get that suited up for wherever this drops. Probably going to be YouTube on my own personal website as well, along with a podcasting site, or let's see, can't remember the name. It's where everyone drops their hot mixtapes. So SoundCloud, there we are.
SoundCloud, yes, SoundCloud. I know. Yeah, that's the one.
People seem to love it. It's gotten good feedback, lots of views on both platforms, both YouTube and SoundCloud. So I'm excited for people to be able to get the part two.
Oh, that's great. It's always good when things are received well. It's it's an honor really, just to be able to chat and just give your take on things. It's great. Yeah, it's great. I love these conversations.
Likewise, it was phenomenal talking to you, James. Thank you for letting me take up about an hour of your time today. And
no, my pleasure, Nick. Honestly, thank you for having me on, and keep up the good work with your website and whatnot. I'll be sure to send over that copy, and just keep me posted, man, on the training, on the progress, and your journey within the fitness industry.
Will do, and likewise for you. One thing that I did want to make note of, though, was when you were talking about your calisthenics, not workshop, but basically the class that you're teaching, you should definitely try and get that recorded for once. Get maybe a waiver so people sign off. Yeah, it's okay. So the people on your Instagram, maybe your YouTube, can see what it's like, and maybe it'll promote it a little bit.
There is actually a little bit of a. It's funny you say that. I'll send you a link from the page of the gym that I work at. They've got an Instagram page. Mm-hmm. When I did the first ever class, they made a mashup of clips of all the things that went on. I will forward you that in a DM. But yeah, it's a great idea. I know what you mean. That a video does exist. That's why I'm saying that.
That's phenomenal. I can't wait to see that and read the ebook. I hope you have a great rest of your night, and it was great talking to you, James.
Uh, Awesome, Nick. Thank you very much. Take care.
You too.
Stay healthy.
Will do. You too.
Cool. Bye bye. See
Bye.
ya.